offer guidance in generating and sustaining right intention in relating to a teacher.
Loma ki samlo kurtang la ra le gyo saris en tende samlo kun loma ki samlo tang tel ra le ba inde te loma kurang ki ngone ta samlo yabo na checho la samlo chi tang gon na tel mi kalo tang lap den chi kare sonje nas
siang ge te chi quand ina Tomar lama toba ton ne lama toba de tamchi chilengone tombo kechi was take yours.
So in all the teachings or like every tradition, first there is like the how to investigate on the qualities of the master, and then also like master also investigating the quality of the student. So this is very important, and in most of the texts before going to the actual practice or the teachings, so this subject is discussed as the first topic.
Okay, this lama de ron so kori ne redu tome kashi sunayo dumar rongi imba te hako ti tone te kasha de sentence sera tome rongi pamashi imba di hako ashi te ni hit dembo rongi jula yedu ta tene kori dunga tele yar dorbi tadu tene lama kan de tengudu So how
the students must find their teacher? So the first understanding they must have is now the sufferings in the 6 realms. So wherever a sentient being is born, the seeker of this spiritual path must see that all these 6 realms of cyclic existence is a place of suffering, and then having a yearning to be freed from this suffering. And with this intention also, then the seeker of the spiritual path, the student must have the bodhicitta of seeing all sentient beings of equal to space, where our mother, and with this two intention or motivation, then seeking a path to liberate from this suffering and to benefit all the sentient beings, the student must look for a master.
Hemba Malowa Jidong Lama le Teba Mugu Ti Toban Meneki Aranshunki then Lama then Pento Gemers.
So a student who don't really have detached from the adherence to the cyclic existence, and then also do not have firm devotion to a master, then there won't be much benefit through these practices.
Siong ki sanji chi chele ndo do ma ni re ndo chi ka ni na ta siong chi sumba pa de lama ten le onya so le na ya bo yer ha chung ni ka te tsam chi ma re te so ha chi ka su te lama sur ki de ten le rong ki ya bo chi nya so ma le na te ne kori dungar Tamibati in Rogan and Chocolate Day and Lama de Rono Soto Toshi Sanetsunde, then Lame Kan Sumbate, then Mejepa Gene, then they don't send the Chile, Tito Zambati Kesha Teres.
So in Buddhism, we have the Sutrayana teachings and then the Tantra teachings or the Vajrayana teachings. So in the Sutrayana teachings and the practices. Of course, we have to rely on a master, but then practice that. And if we there is no much complete reliance on the master, but when we practice the Vajrayana teaching, the master or the teacher becomes the principal subject where we have to rely on. And then before relying on that spiritual master, we have to really examine the qualities of the teacher, and then rely on him. And if then it should be a complete reliance and devotion. And if there is some sort of breakage in this the relation, then it will cause a great harm and suffering. And then instead of liberating from the suffering, it can create more of the negative impact.
Dalam jikani sanji ji gomo tobala kachen trome som so so tujung ne sanji gomo togubajeres.
So in the Sutrayana teachings, it is said that to get enlightened, one have to practice 3 countless eons to get enlightened.
This angajikala tibarima mambachiyarede. Dene tada ate yoga dobachemo nenaji kolle. Then loma raton dembachi ke ma kaserina tseti liti drebo togubacheres.
So in and the secret mantrayana teaching, there are again different yanas, and of all this the Ati Yoga, the great completion, then if one is able to practice this spiritual path and the teachings, it is said that we can accomplish enlightenment in one lifetime and this one body.
Lamale sonje mesum tong tubati sam tong guyores.
So for that, then because of this, now the student must also see the master as the real Buddha.
The sano madonna che drevo nyudu mentevade kalekores.
So if one is not able to see our own master as Buddha, then all this accomplishment to swiftly achieve these goals would be impossible.
The lama sonje te tongu bate loma rana soso ki dandu remato lama guyachi.
So to see the teacher as the Buddha, it is for the benefit of these students, and it doesn't anyway help the master.
Lama sonje te tona lama tangden lama meru tona te tanyang raji dor tegures.
So in these teachings, if we see the teacher Lama as Buddha, then he abides by all the samayas. And then if the student see the Lama as just an ordinary being, so it's even said that is not abiding by the samaya.
Yena yon tenson chögi kaji toni shushewa jire maro ni topane shushewa de gombores.
So nowadays, all the practitioners are just superficial practitioners, just practicing through their mouth, and then from real in-depth, the one who practices these teachings are very rare and few.
Kagishede, Zobachemi Chugu Segeres, Dan Lord, Ron Sosogi, they don't jinta son Tubachi, Lomadi Gombores.
So everyone speaks of saying that I want the teachings of the Dzogpa Chenpo, the great completion practice, but in real practice, then there are very few who can really put into the practice of all these teachings.
usunda jeremato message tungesemas.
So those who practice, then there are some who can practice just a couple of months, but there isn't really practitioners who want to like make a commitment to practice their whole life.
Dolane tachen tumeson do sosa debation de sonje ko on tobado. So zoba chembekane message ile tene beto sheva che cassette ndude yenao so gene nyansle mesemas.
So if we see that in the Sutrayana path, then one have to practice many countless eons to get enlightened, and then in the Mantrayana teachings, it's like within a very short life, short time, one can get enlightenment. But there are very few who practices in accordance to whatever our text is teaching us and instructing us to do.
There's dawa chare nyanso lena o pe masiki jerimbo kale kabonda di tondunge kadore de yin sanji ji goron zoba chemba tawa ngandu kande joge hamos.
So then just by practicing for a couple of months, then people feel that very tiring, and then it is very sort of like lots of like austerity practice and all these teachings, they see it as sort of like really hard and endurable practices. So with such a motivation, it would be very difficult to really accomplish all these teachings as taught in the text.
Lama sonje tongne rongi gosu lingo yeso temba chuse duna tendebo mere mato lama call mere ngao me somebody gononi lama le kukur laso ba chenyas yon to ba manone che he sonje ko to mare.
So if we just are not able to see the Lama as the Buddha and just think that Lama is also another ordinary human being and I am also another human being, and practice in this way won't have any much benefit, like just by understanding and having the just the knowledge on this Dharma won't benefit. So the real benefit has to come through the practice of these teachings.
Belena lama de ganga chembochi gen lama de tsede lama tsede de lama de karsuna de kar mangava je saja mena o che to konale par ribat de ndugire tendese de devore togire. They don't have comments.
So in Tibet, first we have to find an authentic master with much difficulties, and then once we find the master, then we completely rely on that master and do whatever the master instruct the student, and in that way, even if the person is running out of all this his ration and all this provisions, then he doesn't care, and just with one pointed mind he just think of practicing the Dharma, and in that way one is able to really accomplish high realization. And nowadays there is very few, and so I don't know what will be the result.
Kalaya body marana or the halish progress, the day you children at the Hakomis.
So nowadays practitioner, even if one is not able to get a good meal in a day, so it's very much surprising and takes it disgusting, or and then so such practitioners, I don't know how they can really accomplish this spiritual path.
Kala in a conscience that poet job Majatan Chunda the part of Turkish tomb, then cheer the Korota Chia Sherimado, Saju Jan and Dusa the Thor Chia Shim Sayamars.
So in the past, the practitioners were just not worried about about their food and where they want to stay, and then they just drank water and then just ate limited food, and then they were solely completely focused on the practice of the Dharma, and in that way they were able to accomplish high realization. Then, so like how this is the relation, as you said, to speak on the relation between master and student. So this is the general idea, and then he also makes aspirational prayers so that there can be good practitioners in future.
Okay, oh yeah.